to know half of what happened to my daughter, even after the trial.
In mixed martial arts, two people enter a cage and beat the living daylights out of each other until one of them emerges victorious or, suffers a devastating life-altering injury. So I guess it's no surprise that so many hot-headed athletes have entered the sport.
Right now, would you ever talk about my mom? Yeah. What's good?
For most of them, MMA provides an outlet for aggression while allowing them to earn a decent payday in the process. There are some fighters, however, who just haven't been able to restrict their anger to inside the cage. These are the competitors that we'll be looking at in today's video. From a former UFC star who can't seem to keep himself out of trouble to a bona fide octagon icon currently awaiting trial for attempted murder. Here are 8 MMA fighters who have spent time behind bars.
Number 8. Jason Miller.
Jason Miller is a bit of a wandering fighter and has moved from promotion to promotion in search of glory. Over the course of his career, he has fought in WEC, Strikeforce, and even UFC, racking up an impressive record of 23 wins and 10 losses. If he had been able to avoid controversy and keep his eyes on the prize, it's not entirely unbelievable that he would have won the big one someday. But staying out of trouble is a lot easier said than done, especially when your nickname is Mayhem.
Get back here, you idiot! Fight me from the stretcher!
Mayhem Miller has found himself behind bars on more than one occasion, with his first arrest coming in 2011. It was in that year that the fighter was charged with simple assault and false imprisonment. He would then be arrested at least once a year until 2018. When he was sentenced to 1 year imprisonment on a felony vandalism charge. He was released in 2019, but it didn't take long for him to get in trouble again. Miller's most recent arrest came in September of 2021 after he physically assaulted his girlfriend. He was subsequently charged with felony assault and battery for breaking a man's ribs in a bar fight just days before the incident with his girlfriend.
Number 7. Paul Kelly.
Despite receiving Fight of the Night on 2 separate occasions, Paul Kelly never really got his UFC career off the ground. The once promising fighter left the promotion in 2011 with a record of 5 wins and 4 losses.
I don't like talking about it. It's not me, you know what I mean?
He continued his career in a number of smaller promotions, but it was his legal troubles that landed him in the media spotlight. In May of 2013, Kelly was convicted of attempting to smuggle heroin into the United Kingdom. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison, but was able to secure early release in 2019. It seems that time behind bars was exactly what Kelly needed to turn his life around. In the years since his release, he has remarried, had a baby, and even opened a successful restaurant.
Number 6. Dmitry Sosnovsky.
Information about Dmitry Sosnovsky isn't easy to find. Much of what is available online is written in his native language of Russian. What we do know about Sosnovsky is that he once seemed bound for glory in mixed martial arts and was undefeated as a heavyweight fighter. But even with his imminent success, Sosnovsky wasn't willing to wait for the riches that typically come to professional fighters. In an attempt to score some quick cash, he and 4 co-conspirators kidnapped a wealthy businessman and demanded he pay them 300,000 Russian rubles to secure his release. As it turned out, their victim was a total badass and refused to give in to their demands. He even managed to outsmart his captors and escape before alerting the police. Sosnovsky was later convicted of the crime and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison.
Number 5. War Machine.
Born Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, he legally changed his name to War Machine at the outset of his MMA career. In his time as a fighter, Mr. Machine appeared in a number of promotions, with the most notable being UFC and Bellator. He also had a brief stint as an adult film star, which went about as well as you'd imagine. War Machine had multiple run-ins with the law from 2007 to 2012. In 2013, he committed his most serious crime when he broke into the home of his ex-girlfriend, adult film star Christy Mack. Once inside, he held Mack and her new boyfriend hostage, torturing both for hours on end. Thankfully, they eventually managed to escape, and a week-long manhunt for the fighter began. Police apprehended War Machine in Simi Valley, California, before a judge sentenced him to life in prison.
She really had to think of, what's a just punishment, and that encompassed future safety to not only Christine McInday, but to the community.
He will not be eligible for parole until 2053 at the earliest.
Number 4. Joe Sun.
South Korean fighter Joe Sun never really had the body of an MMA star. If anything, he had the body of a psychopathic criminal. which would probably explain his various arrests over the years. Things really started to fall apart for Sun in 2008 when he was sentenced to 90 days in a California prison for probation violation. He was able to score a plea bargain, but this ultimately proved to be his undoing. As part of his plea deal, Sun was asked to provide a DNA sample, which he agreed to. The DNA was later used to link him to the brutal assault of a woman in 1990.
In the carport, 2 guys jam in the carport. They grab me, throw it in the car, drive her some distance away. That's bad. It's very bad. And the DNA tells us
he received an oddly vague sentence of 7 years to life for this crime, but was later sentenced to 34 years to life after murdering his cellmate in Wasco State Prison.
Number 3. Chris Lieben.
When compared to those committed by some of his fellow MMA fighters, Chris Lieben's crimes have actually been pretty tame. By normal person standards, however, Lieben is a surefire menace to society. His legal troubles began in 2010 when he crashed his pickup truck and was arrested for driving under the influence. As a first-time offender, the fighter was set free with a slap on the wrist and a $1,000 fine. Lieben's offending became a lot more serious in 2015 when he broke into the home of his ex-wife. Breaking and entering is bad enough, but he was also in violation of a restraining order she had filed against him. He was subsequently charged with both of these crimes and also had to face a felony weapons charge. Lieben didn't fight the charges and quickly pleaded guilty. In exchange for his guilty plea, he received a rather lenient sentence of 120 days in jail and 3 years probation.
Number 2. Lee Murray.
At one point in his life, Lee Murray looked set to be the next big thing in the UFC.
Lee Murray was the type of guy that you just knew did not give a f***.
He was amassing an impressive win-loss record and allegedly even managed to knock out Tito Ortiz in a nightclub brawl. But his penchant for drunken fights eventually led to him being stabbed during an altercation at a birthday party in 2005. The injuries he sustained in this incident forced him to retire from fighting and pursue a life away from the octagon. With no real skills outside of beating people up, Murray struggled to make ends meet after his UFC retirement. With his savings dwindling, he turned to a life of crime to support himself. In the summer of 2006, he was arrested by Moroccan police for his role in a bank robbery back in his native England. Despite having committed the crime in Kent, Murray was not extradited from Morocco and was held in one of the country's prisons while awaiting trial. A foiled attempt to escape custody made things even worse for the former fighter, and he was sentenced to 25 years imprisonment in 2010.
Number 1. Cain Velasquez.
Cain Velasquez is one of the most decorated fighters in UFC history, having held the promotion's top championship on 2 separate occasions. He even holds a knockout victory over Brock Lesnar, which just about makes him the scariest human being on the planet. Unlike most of the other fighters featured in this video, Velasquez does not have an extensive criminal history. In fact, his one and only arrest came earlier this year when he was charged with attempted murder.
He's a good person, you know, and everybody knows it, especially the guys who are close to him, somehow related to him. We just know that he would never done such thing if the person didn't really cross the line.
According to reports, the UFC legend fired a gun at a man who had assaulted one of his young relatives in a California daycare. However, Velasquez missed his target and hit the man's father instead. Despite his poor marksmanship, fans and fighters were quick to rally around Velasquez, praising him for his intentions. Many even said they would have done the same thing if they had been in his position. At the time of this recording, Cain is incarcerated and awaiting trial while the alleged abuser remains a free man. Gotta love that justice system. Okay guys, so those were 8 MMA fighters who have spent time behind bars. A lot of those crimes were pretty sickening, but which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more great MMA content. Until next time.